Hello, welcome to my channel. In today's video I'll be showing you how to cut and sew a stylish cow turtleneck dress. If you are interested in this video, watch to the end, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, show your girl love and hit the subscribe button. Also, I upload once a week, so turn on your notification for you to be notified whenever a new video is up. Leave your questions in the comment section, like and share this video if it's helpful. Let's get started. So for today's tutorial, you will need your tape, your tailor's chalk, your scissors, your polka dot fabric, and your plain fabric. Okay, so for the polka dot fabric I'll be using a yard, then for the plain fabric I'll be using a yard and half, depending on your size. All right, so I have my fabric on fold now, and this one is for the back panel. Because it is a cow neck dress, we'll be cutting the back panel first, then we'll use the back panel to cut the front panel. All right, so this is my starting point line, and this is for the zip, and the distance there is 1 inch. Okay, and the bust circumference I'll be working with is 38. 38 divided by 4 will give me 9.5. Then 1 inch sewing allowance and 1 inch for zip is making it 11.5. But on fold there I have 12 inches because we'll have to cut out the excess. All right, so now for the shoulder is 15 inches divided by 2, 7.5 plus half an inch sewing allowance, making it 8 inches. So I'll mark 8 inches here. Okay, then from this point I'm going to mark 8.5 downward. Then from this point I'll measure 8 inches like this, then connect this point to this other point with a straight line. Then I'll come up here and mark half an inch for our shoulder slope, then the second half an inch for the joining of the shoulder, from front shoulder to the back shoulder. Then I'll take measurements of this point here, the distance here, what we have left. We have 7.5 divided by 2 will give us 3.7. So we'll mark that 3.7 points. Okay, on this point I'll be going in by half an inch. All right, so I'm going to mark half an inch here, then connect this point to this point. Then so for the bust circumference, remember the bust I'm working with is 38. 38 divided by 4, 9.5 plus 1 inch sewing allowance will make it 10.5. So from here now I'll mark 10.5. Okay, so then I'm going to draw my armhole curve. All right, so for the length of the top, the upper part is 16.5. okay, but we'll need half an inch for joining of the shoulder, then half an inch for the joining of the top to the down parts, so making 17.5. So I'll be marking 17.5 here, then I'll come to this side to then mark 17.5, then connect the 2 points together. So for the neck area, the neck width I'll be working with is 3 inches, so I'll mark 3 inches here. Then for the neck depth for the back panel, I'll be marking 1 inch. Okay, I'll be using 1 inch. Then I'll connect the points together. You know, since it's going to have a collar, so we don't want it to be too deep. All right, so for the waist area, the measurement I'll be working with is 34 inches. So 34 divided by 4 will give me 8.5. Then I'll add 1 inch sewing allowance to it to make 9.5. All right, so I'm going to come to the waist and mark 9.5. Then connect this point to this point with a straight line. Okay. So from here now, I'm going to measure 1 inch upward. And the reason for that is to avoid the bulge that will form at the back. Okay, so I'm going to connect the points together like so. So the next thing now is to cut it out. All right. So here I'm going to connect this point to this point, the first 1/2 inch mark for our shoulder slope. Then we'll continue cutting, and after I'm done cutting, I'll use the back panel to cut the front panel. Okay. So now let's cut the front panel. So now for the front panel, okay, this waist area here, you will leave 1/2 inch space here. Then you come to this upper part, position your tape like this and mark a straight line. Ignore this first line, okay? Then if you want your cowl to be fuller than this, okay, you have to make sure the space at the upper part here, you have to make sure it is wider than this. Okay, so what I have here, you are going to measure it. So what I have here is 5 inches. So if you want yours to be wider, you make it 7 inches or so. Then you measure 5 inches upward like this. Then you connect to this point. Okay, so you measure 3 inches. You know the neck width is 3 inches. So the remaining fabric will be pleated to the back shoulder. Okay. So now let's cut. So this is it. Okay. Then you come to this part and measure 3 inches for the neck width. Okay, then notch that place. The remaining fabric will be pleated to the shoulder. So this is it. Then you come to the waist here and notch the midpoint. Okay guys, I'm changing the style. I wanted to pleat the front panel. I wanted to pleat the waist before, but now I won't be doing it. So that's why the 1/2 inch that was left before, I'm going to close it up now. So I'm repositioning the back panel on the front panel now. As you can see, the 1/2 inch on the waist is no longer there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim these parts like this. Then trim the armhole area and the side as well. Although you can still leave it the way it was before, all you just have to do is to pleat the waist of the front panel. Okay, that's all you have to do. But since I won't be pleating it again, that's why I'm doing all this. You can still leave it the way it was. Okay, all you just need to do is to pleat it. Okay. So this is it. Then the 3 inches for the neck width, you mark it and notch that point. So you will know where to stop your pleat. Okay, so now the next thing we'll be doing is to cut the down part of the dress. Okay, so for the lower part of the dress, the length I'll be working with is 38 inches, but the pattern paper I'm using is 36 inches. So as I'm cutting the pattern paper of the fabric, I'll add 2 inches to the length. Okay, so now from here, from this point to the end of the pattern paper is 36 inches. Don't forget that. So the next thing I'll be doing is to mark the hip depth. The hip depth I'll be working with is 9 inches. So here I'll mark 9 inches on this side and on the other side as well. Then connect the 2 points together. So this is the hip line. All right, so for the waist measurement, I'm working with is 34 inches. So 34 divided by 4 will give us 8.5, plus 1 inch in allowance will make it 9.5. So I'll come to the waist and mark 9.5. So okay, so for the hip circumference, is 42. 42 divided by 4 will give 10.5. Okay, plus 1 inch seam allowance will make it 11.5. So I'm going to mark 11.5 on the hip line. Okay, so now for the base of the dress, okay, we'll have to minus 2 inches from the hip measurement, which is 11.5. So I'm going to minus 2 inches from it, so making 9.5. All right, so I'm going to mark 9.5 at the base of the dress. So now we'll connect this point to this point with a straight line. So the next thing is to connect the hip line to the waist line. So this is it. So the next thing I'm going to do is divide the waist measurement on fold, which is 9.5, divided by 2, making 4.7. Then I'll round it up to 5 inches. So I'll mark 5 inches on this point. Then I'll come down again. I'll mark 5 inches. Also on the hip line, I'll mark 5 inches. Then from the hip line, I'm going to come down by 5 inches as well. Then on that point, I also mark 5 inches inward. And I'll connect this point to this point. So this is it. So I'll come to the down part here and mark 4 inches. Then connect this point to this other point. This is it. The next thing I'll be doing is to cut. So this is it. I'm done shaping it out. The next thing is to open it up and cut the 5 inches side out. And also do not forget to notch your hip line. Okay, to notch that point. So now I'm done cutting it out, and do not forget, when you're tracing it out on your fabric, you will need to add half an inch each on both sides for joining. Okay, please make sure you do not forget that. Okay, so I'll set this 5-inch pattern paper aside and focus on this one. So for the depth of the ruffles, depending on how deep you want it to be, but for this project, I'll go 2 inches below the hip line. So that is where the ruffles is going to stop at. Okay, so making it 11 inches from the waist. Then You see, that is 11 inches from the waist. Then I'm going to mark it on the other side as well and connect the 2 points together. So from this point now, I'm going to mark 1 inch each like this till I get to the 11 inches point. Okay. So the next thing I'll be doing is to cut this 11 inches mark out. Alright, so this is it. I'll set the down part aside, then I'll focus on this. So on this other part, I'm going to mark 1 inch all through like I did on this part. Okay, so I'll mark 1 inch as well, then connect the points together like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to label this side. You know, this side is for the slit, so I'm going to label it M1, M2 till I get to M11, so as to differentiate between which side is going to be for the slit and the other side for the side seam allowance. Okay, so the next thing is to trace them out. So this is how it's looking right now. What I'm going to do now is to place it on another piece of paper and I'll open it up on that. Okay, so right now I'm going to be using sellotape to hold it into position. So this is the first one. And in between the strips, you're going to leave 1.5 inch space in between each strips. Okay, so this is it. This is what it's looking like right now. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to trace it out. All right, so this is it. This is what it's looking like right now. So I'm going to remove this one from it. All right, so this is what I have now after I remove the other one. So you label this place up so you won't mix them up together. All right, this is the upper part and this is the down part. The next thing I'll be doing is to join this to the down part. Okay, and guys, please don't place them on each other. Just make sure they meet together, then you sellotape it, not that you place one on the other one. Okay, so this is it. This is what it's looking like. So this is it. Okay, so the upper part here, I'm going to gather it to be of the same height with this one. All right, so the next thing I'll be doing now is I'll take the 2 panels to the fabric and trace them out. So this is the back panel, all right, and as you can see, this is my starting point, okay, and this is my zip allowance, which is 1 inch, and I've marked it from the waist down to the base of the fabric. So now for the waist, the measurements I'm working with is 34 inches. So 34 divided by 4 will give 8.5, remember, and we'll add 1 inch sewing allowance to it, making 9.5. So you start from the zip, after the zip, okay, then you measure 9.5, like that. Okay, then for the hip measurements, you come down for the hip depth 9 inches from the waist. Then you know our hip measurement is 42. 42 divided by 4, 10.5. Then we add 1 inch sewing allowance to make it 11.5. So you mark it on the hip line. Okay. Then remember, from the 11.5, we'll minus 2 inches, making 9.5. Then we'll mark that 9.5 at the base of the fabric. Then I will connect the points together, then cut it out, okay? And don't forget to notch the hip line, okay? Then we come to this place and open it up as well. So you see I've opened it up, and don't forget to mark the upper side. Okay, so the next thing is we'll go to the sewing machine and start sewing. All right, so these are all the pieces we'll need for this dress. Okay, so I'm going to set these ones aside, then focus on the front panel of the base of the dress. All right, so this point here is where the 11-inch mark is. So I'm going to mark it so it will be obvious very well. Okay, that point there. Then this other side, I'm going to stitch half an inch, a quarter of an inch rather, from this point to like get to the upper part there. Okay, so let me take it to the sewing machine and start doing that. So looking at it, you see it's already forming. Okay, then you come to this end and open it up, open the thread up and start pulling like this. You continue pulling until you have 11 inches from the marked point to the end here. So what I will do now is to measure it. If I have up to 11 inches, so what I have here is more than 11 inches, so I'm still going to pull a little. Okay, so the next thing now is I'm going to come to this point here, okay, and make 3 to 4 knots there. So now I'm going to check again if it's now up to 11 inches. So I have 11 inches now. Okay, so the next thing is to join this part to the other part here with half an inch, but before then I'm going to knot it at the upper part here. Also for the slit, okay, the slit is going to be 18 inches, okay, but you know we need 1 inch for the folding for the hemming at the base of the dress, so making 19 inches. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure 19 inches from the base of the dress here upward. So this is it. I'll mark this point here. So this is where the journey is going to stop at. So now I'm going to stitch with 1/2 inch from the upper part. So I'm done joining the two panels together, and this is it. This is where I stopped at. Okay. So when you open it up, this is what you're going to have. Then the next thing I'll be doing is I'll join the front panel of the base of the dress to the front panel of the upper part of the dress. So I'm going to fold it like this to find the midpoint and notch. Okay. So I'm going to notch these points. So now I'm going to bring the midpoint of the upper part and the lower part together and place them on each other and secure it with a pin. Then I'll come to this end to secure this side too with a pin, and I'll do the same for the other side as well. So the next thing is I'm going to join it together with 1/2 inch stitch. Okay. So now I'm done. Okay. So when I open it up, this is what it's looking like. Okay. So the next thing is I'll take it to the overlocking machine and weave it. Okay. So now for the back panels, I'm going to join the upper part and the lower part together with 1/2 inch stitch as well. Then take them to the overlocking machine when I'm done. So the next thing is I'm going to use pin to secure the back panels together here. So then join them together. But I'm going to leave the allowance for the zip. This is where the zip is going to stop at. Then from there to the base of the dress, I'm going to join it with 1 inch. So when I open it up, this is what it's looking like. So this is the back panel. The next thing I'll be doing is I'm going to be pleating the shoulder of the front panel onto the shoulder of the back panel. So you place this side together, the armhole side, you pin it together. Then you come to the other side here, the neck area, and you pin it together as well. Okay. Then before you start pleating, we'll pleat towards the neck. But before you start pleating, make sure you leave 1/2 inch before your first pleats. So make sure you pleat towards the neck area. Then you secure it with a pin. Then you do the second one as well, like that. You secure it with a pin. So you continue doing it like that till you're done pleating. So this is it. I have just 4 pleats here. Yours can be more than that depending on what you want. So the next thing is I'm going to stitch with 1/2 inch, then do the same thing for the other side as well. So this is it. Okay, so the next thing is to cut the sleeve. I'm going to take the armhole measurement. So what I have here is 10 inches. So this is for the sleeve and is unfolding to 4. So I'm going to measure the width now. So I have 9.2 here. The next thing is to mark my starting point line. So the sleeve length I'm working with is 21 inches, but what I have here is 17 inches. Okay, so I'm going to be adding this fabric to it as well. And for this 17 inches, I'll remove 1 inch from it, 1 inch to join to this plain fabric and 1 inch to join to the shoulder. Then I'll add 5 inches to it, making 21 inches. The 5 inches will be for the plain fabric. Okay, so now here I'm going to mark 4 inches there and connect this point to that point. So now let me check if what I have here is 10 inches. So I have 10.5 inches here, so it's more than 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up by 1/2 inch, then retrace the line. So now I have 10 inches. So for this fabric, I'm not going to shape it out because I'm going to be pleating it onto the other fabric. Okay, so whatever I have here, 9 inches, so that's what I'm going to measure here as well. Then I'll connect the points together, then cut it out. So here I'm going to notch it. Then the down part also, I'm going to trim the excess out. So for this material at 16, what I'll mark here is I'll mark 6.5 plus the sewing allowance of 1 inch, so 6.5. So without the sewing allowance, it will be 5.5. Then here, so here the round sleeve is 9.5 divided by 2, we'll have 4.7. Okay, plus 1 inch sewing allowance, making it 5.7. So I'm going to mark 5.7 here and connect the points together, then cut it out. So the next thing is to come to this upper part here, find the midpoint and notch. So now I'm done with the cutting of the sleeve. So for the sleeve now, the midpoint of these two, I'm going to place them on each other and then use a pin to secure them into place. So now I'm going to mark 2 inches from this end now. So I'm going to mark 2 inches. So from there, that's where my pleat is going to start from. And I'm going to use 1/2 inch to join the two together. So I'm done with the pleating. So the next thing is to join the sleeve to the bodies. So this notched area on the sleeve, I'm going to place it on the shoulder here and secure it with a pin. Then I'm going to come to this side too and secure it with a pin. Then I'll do the same thing for the rest of the sleeve. So now I'm going to stitch round with 1/2 inch. So now I'm done with this. So the next thing is to join the sides together. So the side seam allowance I'm using is 1 inch. Okay. So I'm going to mark it all through. So I'm done with it, as you can see, and I've done the same thing for the other side as well. So the next thing I'll be doing it, I'll be fixing the zip. And this is the zip. It is an invisible zip. Okay. Now I'm done fixing the zip. Make sure you trim all the threads. Okay. Alright, so this is it. So the next thing I'll be doing is to fold the slits before I will now fix the collar on the neck. Okay. So for the slits, I'm going to fold it with 1/2 inch all through on this side and on the other side as well. So when you get to the upper part here, you're going to change the direction of the clothes like this. Then you stitch across to secure that point. Then you change the direction again and you stitch down the other side of the slit. So the next thing is to hem with 1/2 inch. So now for the neck, you know it has collar. So you're going to align the two shoulders together and secure it with a pin like this. Okay. And you open up the zip and also secure the zip area with a pin. Okay, like that. Then you position it this way. So my neck measurement is 16 inches. Okay, 16 divided by 6 will give me 2.67, approximately 2.7. All right, so I'm going to come here from this point. So from this point here, I'll come down by 2.7 inches. So I mark 2.7 here. Then I'll connect it to the other side with a curve. Then I'm going to cut it out. So this is it. If I measure it now, I should have 16 inches. So it's 16 inches like that. Okay. So for the collar, I've cut out this and the length is 18 inches. So this part here is 18 inches, while this other side is 17 inches. 17 inches. What I did was I fold it like this. Okay, then I trimmed it out like so in a slanted way. And what I have for the width is 1.5 inches. Okay, and it's on fold. So my neck measurement is 16 inches plus the 1 inch here on both sides for the zipper allowance makes it 18 inches. All right. So the next thing is to hold this place together like this. Find the midpoint and notch it. Then this one too, I'll fold it together like this and notch it at the center. So I'll notch this point. Okay. So the next thing is to take the collar and position its midpoint onto the other midpoint and secure it with a pin. Then you continue to secure it with pins like that. Then after I'm done, I'm going to stitch it together with 1/2 inch. So this is it. Okay. So for this neck area, okay, it's going to be unfold like this, and you can either use hook and eye or you use a button. Okay, but I'll be using a button. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be using. All right, so this is 1 inch width, 1 inch width. Then I'm going to fold it like this and sew a 1/4 inch from the top to the bottom. Then turn it inside out. So I'm going to cut this part off, then give it a good press. So now I'll cut the excess off here. Then place it like this. Then turn it like so and stitch it down. So this is it. Okay. So now I'm going to fix my tag on it. So this is how it's going to be at the back. Okay. And I'm going to fix a button here. All right, and that will be all. Like and share this video if you find it helpful. Subscribe to the channel. If you have any question, leave it in the comment section. I'll be glad to attend to them. See you in my next video. Bye.